Hi. So I've got a question for you. I want you to think about the last action movie that you saw. Maybe it was a James Bond film. And my question is, where did it start? What was that opening scene? Was it our hero running across the rooftops being chased by the baddies, or a high-speed car chase with James Bond driving through the middle of a market and stalls and people flying everywhere while he's being shot at? Chances are it was something like that, and that the film started right bang in the middle of the action. There was no filling in the background first, right? There was no telling us what they're going to tell us. They just cut straight to the chase. And that's gripping, right? That pulls you in from the moment it starts. And that's what you want to do with your talks and your presentations. You want people to be totally engaged from the very, very start. And the problem is, you might not know how to do that, and you might have been taught a very different way. You might have been told that you've got to introduce yourself first, and you've got to tell people a bit about yourself, and maybe even tell them what you're going to tell them. But unfortunately, that doesn't make for a great story. So I'm going to show you something different. I'm going to show you how to think like a storyteller when you're putting your talks together. And if you're going to approach your talk like a storyteller, you need to dive straight in. You need to open a story loop. And the best way to open a story loop is to introduce a problem. All good stories have a problem that needs solving, a conflict that needs resolving. So what problem does your audience have in relation to the topic of your talk? What do they want, and what's in the way of them having that? What's the challenge they're facing? Why have they come to your talk? What problem are they looking for a solution for? Start with that and you'll grab their attention. When you think about the movies that you love, they're always about a problem that needs solving. Think about The Wizard of Oz. Dorothy wants to get back home. She wants to get back to Kansas, but she doesn't know how, and her house has been destroyed. They opened a story loop, and we have to keep watching the film to see if she ever gets home. We have to keep watching Bridget Jones' Diary to see if she ever finds the love of her life. We have to keep watching Liam Neeson, fly all around the world trying to get his daughter back before the kidnappers kill her. That's how storytelling works. It hooks you in, right? Quickly. That's how authors keep you turning the pages of a book, because they keep opening story loops and you have to keep reading to see what happens next. So you need to open a story loop at the start of your talk. And if you don't know how to do that, I'm going to give you a little template that you can use, a little fill in the blank template. And as you get more confident with this and it comes more naturally, you can play around with it. But for now, here's a template for you to use. So you might want to write this down. There's three parts to it. Part one is you want to be fill in the blank. Part two, for that you need fill in the blank. And part three, the problem is fill in the blank. So you want to be ... For that you need ... The problem is ... So here's what that might sound like. So you want to be a great presenter, right? You want to give really great talks that grab your audience's attention. Oh, excuse me. That people love and engage with and remember and talk about long after you've left the stage or finished your talk. To do that, you need to grab your audience's attention from the start. You need to, the start of your talk needs to be gripping, and you need to open a story loop that really hooks them in with your first few sentences. The problem is, maybe you don't know how to do that, or maybe you've been taught to do something different. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, because that's exactly how I started this presentation. I used that little formula. I did exactly what I just told you to do, and I cut straight to the chase. I haven't even introduced myself yet. By doing that, we grab people's attention. We show them that what we're talking about is highly relevant to them. That's presuming, of course, it is, and you are doing the right talk to the right people. But we've shown them instantly it's highly relevant. We've talked about a specific problem. We've introduced the conflict. We've opened a story loop. And that makes it a powerful formula that you can use anywhere. You can use it in everything. You can use it in talks that you give. You can use it in conversations. You can use it in your elevator pitch. You can use it in your website. You can use it in all of your marketing. So try that out. Try that little template out and use it to open a story loop and grab your audience's attention from the start. Think James Bond. So you've started your talk and you've hooked them in. Now what? Now you want to think about how else can you incorporate storytelling into your presentation? How can you sprinkle stories throughout to keep people engaged? One way is to keep opening more story loops. You know, I mean, when you think about a book, at the end of every chapter, the author will open another story loop that makes you want to keep reading on. Or the end of, you know, an episode of something on the TV, you know, they finish with a cliffhanger, they open a story loop, they have you wanting to, you've just got to watch the next episode because you want to know what happens. That's what good storytellers do. So use storytelling as much as you can, open story loops. Use stories to enhance your message, your teaching points. You know, you can use personal stories. You can tell the story of why you started your company if you started your company to solve a specific problem that you now help other people to solve. So if it's highly relevant, then that's a good story to tell. That shows empathy and it shows authority, it shows credibility, it shows that you've solved the problem and you know how to get people the result that they want. So personal stories are fine as long as they're highly relevant. You can tell stories about your clients and the successes that they've had. You can get stories from books. You can get get stories from anywhere, as long as you credit the source. You know, I often use stories from books and just credit the author when I'm doing it. You can use anecdotal stories. You can use analogies and metaphors. I use analogies all the time. You know, I just almost everything, when I'm talking to clients, I use a lot of analogies. I talk about, you know, how your key message of your brand needs to be like the chorus of a song, you know, that keeps bringing the song back to what the song is about. So I talk about, I mean, I was actually on a podcast the other day, and the interviewer asked me about a common concern that I hear, something I hear people say quite a lot, which is that they want to get better at selling, but they never want to sound salesy. People hate to feel or sound in any way salesy. But at the same time, they do want to sell themselves. They do want to, you know, let people know what a great result they can help them get. So the question was, how do you sell without sounding salesy? And I used storytelling to answer that question. I said, imagine that you are at the edge of a jungle, and on the other side of that jungle is something that you really, really want. Okay, so it's the life that you want, or the job, or the business, or the relationship that you want, or the wealth, or the health, or whatever it is that you want. It's there on the other side of the jungle, but to get there, you've got to go through that jungle. And that is really scary because you don't know what's in the jungle. You don't know, it's unknown territory. You haven't been there before. You don't know what's going to come up. You don't know what the challenges are going to be. You don't know if there's going to be a path even. You don't know if you're going to get lost or, oh, excuse me, fall down a hole or get eaten. Or so you're going to be very reluctant to take those first few steps. You know, that's really scary. You have no idea if you're even going to make it to the other side in one piece. So imagine that you're standing there at the edge of the jungle and somebody appears by your side, and they're clearly local. You know, they're in jungle attire, and they've got the backpack, and they've got some water, and they've got a compass, and they've got a map. And they say, hey, look, don't worry. I know this jungle really, really well. I've been through it many, many times. You know, I know the way through it. I know the route to take. I know the bits to avoid. You know, I know how to get around the holes and the pitfalls. I know how to keep you safe. I know how to make sure you don't get eaten. You know, I've done it many times. I've taken people through it. I've taken people, you know, through and out the other side safely. I've been through myself and know what I'm doing. And I can literally take you by the hand and guide you through it. Would you feel salty? No. How are you going to feel? You're going to feel immense relief, right? You're going to feel full of hope and optimism, and you're even going to be excited to get going because you have got somebody now that you feel, you know, you trust and you feel safe with, and they're going to guide you through it. You trust them. You're going to feel super relieved that they're there. So I used storytelling to get across the point I was trying to make, that when you use storytelling in your marketing, you never sound salesy. You never have to feel salesy. In fact, the opposite. If you do it well, people will be relieved that you've appeared and that you can help them get to where they want to get to. So I use that story then, and I'm also using it here to show you how you can illustrate a point, answer a question, bring a teaching point to life, overcome an objection or a concern or a fear that your audience might have, and position you as the expert that can help them. So when you're putting your talk together, think about how you can be the guide to your audience during the talk. You know, what journey can you take them on? How can you make them feel safe? How can you help take them to where they want to go? If you use storytelling really well, they will feel relieved that you've appeared and that you are there to guide them through this jungle in front of them. So look at ways to use stories, anecdotes, analogies in your talk to bring it to life. So you opened with a story loop, you talked about a problem, you've delivered your key message, you've used stories. Now you want to bring things to a close by closing the story loop. And you do that by talking about what success looks like. So what does your audience have now that they didn't have before your talk started? What do they understand now? What can they go and do now that they couldn't do before your presentation? So start to paint a picture of success for them. You know, what does life look like for Dorothy when she gets back to Kansas? What does life look like for Bridget Jones when she finds her true love? And what about you? When you're doing talks that have people grit from your very first sentence, when they stay highly engaged throughout your talk, when they want you to help them solve the problem they have because they now feel a connection with you, then your talk is working well for you. You know, it's engaging, it's memorable, it's doing what it's supposed to do. And you see what I just did there? I'm closing the story loop that I opened at the beginning of the talk, you know, and painting a picture of success of what life looks like when you know how to think like a storyteller when you're putting your talk together. So storytelling is so powerful. There's a great quote by Steve Jobs that says the most powerful person in the room is the storyteller. So learn how to use storytelling in your talks and in your marketing and on your website, and you'll connect with your audience and you'll get the engagement and the leads and the sales that you want for your business. It's very powerful. So my name is Susan Payton. My company is The Business of Stories. And if you have any questions at all about what I've talked about today, please feel free to get in touch. And in the meantime, go tell some great stories.